also talk about architecture as built skin. And we're very aware of it as we sit under this sun of Barcelona, that our skin is the membrane between the universe and ourselves, and that architecture is built skin. We also believe that architecture is the physics of culture, and we thank clients to give us the opportunity to translate their dreams, or the dreams of the unspoken wishes of strangers. So to be an architect is an incredibly honourable profession. We are asked to make the place of the future, so we build skin.
Mainly, our important intentional goal is to understand how architecture could become a platform for everyone to create their own existence. And I believe that right now, one of the biggest crises is that architecture is imposing a way of living instead of allowing people to develop their own possibility of inhabiting this planet. I mean, architecture in itself is a little bit, this is a big word, but it is a colonizing act, no? It means that very few people have the capacity of imagining how the rest of the world can live.
I've always seen architecture as a kind of enormous resource for talking about extremely broad aspects of our lives, society, how we live in the future, how we want to design our communities, our neighborhoods. And so there's always been a strong social aspect to communicating architecture. Then you ask yourself, who do you communicate architecture to? Definitely to the public, of course, but also to decision makers, and I think that's more important than ever.
Society should be more interested into discipline because it affects so much our everyday life. I mean, during the COVID period, we learned how important is the quality of our living environment, how important is the planning of our apartments to our the lighting of our apartments, because we spend so much more time in our apartments, for example.
I started my career working on very big projects, and I was so interested in the sort of public social housing sector because I feel that there is a very big need there, and that it's a very big risk that architects are reduced to making a nice facade, that there are these very standardized plans and solutions. And I must refer to Grafton Architects' brilliant conference the other night when they said every project needs to start from the inside. A housing project needs to start from the inside. And I think that's so important. I really feel that we need to use the roofs more. Flat roofs with no program should not exist in our cities today. They should be gardens, or they should be terraces. The same also in ground floors, if we can use them for communal spaces. Unfortunately, the very big majority of social housing, public housing, is done completely without any research or consideration for the particular context or the particular situation.
Somos conservadores. En general, yo creo que la gente es muy conservadora, al menos en nuestra sociedad, ¿no? Y hay ciertas cosas y ciertos, yo me atrevería a decir prejuicios, ¿no? Sobre todo respecto a la cocina, respecto a ciertas cosas, ¿no? El número de puertas que puede tener una habitación. Hay ciertas cosas que con la inercia de un edificio a otro es muy difícil cambiar. Y a partir de ahí la primera pregunta que te haces es cuál debe ser la dimensión mínima de una habitación, teniendo en cuenta que el marco en el que estamos es la vivienda social, ¿no? Y para nosotros la habitación mínima debería estar alrededor de unos 13 metros cuadrados y esta decisión, ¿no? Tiene que ver con la superficie, con una superficie mínima que permita una cierta flexibilidad del espacio.
Todas iguales, es muy importante esta idea de repetir siempre la misma habitación, lo cual te da una cierta flexibilidad a la hora de apropiarte de los espacios, es decir, es muy fácil intercambiar una habitación con otra, ¿no? Se consigue una casa sin pasillos, ¿no? Y que esos metros del pasillo también se redistribuyen en el resto de la casa, no?
Aquests habitatges són innovadors en termes de perspectiva de gènere perquè desjerarquitzen absolutament l'habitatge, és a dir, totes les estances tenen la mateixa qualitat espaial. La cuina en aquests habitatges és el cor de la vida i és l'espai central. Està visibilitzat i, per tant, fomenta, diguem, les tasques domèstiques siguin realitzades per més d'una persona.
Da una sensación de amplitud muy grande, ¿no? Además, como no hay prácticamente puertas y están todos los espacios conectados, es una sensación de que el piso es más grande de lo que realmente puede llegar a ser.
También está la manera de cómo vivimos, que está cambiando. Han cambiado mucho las estructuras familiares, es decir, ya no claramente es una familia de una pareja con hijos, ¿no? Es decir, ya no existe esta jerarquía en la familia y sí que existía en las casas, entonces repensar que esta jerarquía tiene que cambiar es lo que ayuda a este cambio.
De hecho, yo me atrevería a pensar que incluso cambia nuestra manera de percibir la intimidad. Antes la intimidad era algo que asociábamos casi a la solidez de la habitación, ¿no? Y ahora la intimidad es como mucho más líquida, la intimidad está entre tu móvil y tú, ¿no? Por tanto, la habitación tiene que ser tan cerrada o la habitación puede abrirse más y los espacios pueden relacionarse más, porque al final la intimidad es algo que es más nuestra distancia personal, ¿no? El espacio de nuestro gesto, y no tanto la habitación donde guardábamos nuestros secretos, donde guardábamos nuestras cosas, ¿no? Bajo llave.
Dentro del drama que ha supuesto la crisis económica, ha tenido una ventaja, que es que ha roto una serie de inercias que han permitido generar un cambio. La crisis permite tener el parón para poder actualizar la vivienda en relación a estos cambios sociales que estamos viviendo y que son constantes y que son mucho más rápidos que la capacidad que tiene la arquitectura de cambiar.
The needs of the clients and the society are changing. We also see changes in how hospitality is interacting with housing, for example. All these nomadic new ways of working and living, they are also touching a little bit the notion of home, of shelter, of house. This will change also the structures of the houses and the way we perceive actually the notion of home. This is changing already, but we will see more radical movements, I believe, in the next few years. There are many ideas and visions of hybrid homes and hybrid hotels and so on.
In the selection there are quite many interesting hybrid buildings, commercial and residential and cultural functions are put together, for example. I think that's one of the trends nowadays to combine things.
We thought it's about time to take this Baugruppe level one little step further and try to build as a Baugruppe workspaces together, and not just workspaces, but also we have a non-profit adult education school. We also have the temporary use apartments, the mini lofts in the building.
We avoided coming up with form. We didn't want to be the kind of traditional approach where an architect produces an image and a vision, okay, we want to reach this and stuff. We wanted to say, we're going on a process. This is the goal that we're going towards in terms of the mixed use, the kind of city we want to create, the way we want to work together. And we found people, and together we did the design with these people on the way. If you have good processes, you will get good buildings. And if you have bad processes, you might get good buildings, but probably not.
Der Prozess war genial. Wir konnten im Prinzip unser Büro so gestalten, wie wir das haben wollten. Wir konnten genau sagen, das Fenster soll an die Stelle, es soll 2 Flügel haben oder es soll sich so öffnen, die Tür soll links hin oder rechts und die Küche dort, Toiletten dort.
It's a very human space because it allows for people to express themselves inside a city that has become so uniform. Especially in the center of the city, Berlin looks more and more like other places. And here I don't think it looks like another place. It has its own identity in it. It belongs here. The sense of place, which is for me the most important sense for a filmmaker, is the most crucial sense for an architect as well.
People will hopefully start to realize that this is the basis for sustainability in every respect, that people agree on things, because then it's long-lasting.
These people came together to buy the site, and that meant that they were the clients. And it means there's also no investor or developer in between in the process.
We don't want to be gentrified. We don't want to be kicked out of the city. We want to stay here. And, and then we said, okay, we have to show that it's possible.
It is the beginning of something that could be a revolution if you look at property from other angles than from the angle of investment. And most of the time, cities are destroyed and planned by investment and not by what's good for the people who live there, what do they need. There's a social value in property, there's a cultural value. So I look forward to the future of this building.
I think one of the main elements in architecture of sustainability is the long life of a building. So I think one of the important elements today is, if we build new buildings, to envisage the next life. So this is one important element. The other is materiality, the resources that we are taking away from our planet.
It's about how we reuse our existing resources, how we reuse the built structures that already exist before we think about using a vast amount of resources and carbon emissions to build new structures and buildings. The urgency of climate change necessitates a much broader engagement of the public in general in co-designing, co-creating their urban environments. And that is why this notion of communicating architecture has become a much broader social, political issue.
The main difference, hopefully coming through the New European Bauhaus, is actually that this is becoming a general mindset in the society and also among the architects, and who reaches out to all professionals, to students, to artists, to engineers, to architects, and to work together, to co-work with the users, with the clients. So it's the involvement and the empowerment of society. I am happy as an architect about this process because it brings the focus to a more holistic view, meaning not only the very building, but it starts with the landscape planning, with the infrastructure, with the traffic planning.
What is very important and what is the starting point for every project, for every building, for every architectural urban intervention, it's the context, the situation. And I think for us as a jury, it really requires that we try to understand the context in which a project was created.
We should always consider the public space as a really important generator of public life and of architectural quality that goes along with it, The mission today would be to rediscover the space of infrastructure by readdressing it in a way that is geared towards the multi-purpose use, not only the car, but all the users of the public space. And the other is, of course, the open space. Let's preserve our open spaces, Let's not think development first. Let's think connecting open spaces first.
I think one of the biggest problems is that we have created everything possible, and architecture plays a very big role, to alienate us from the notion that we belong to this system. We are nature, and we have tended to act as if nature was other thing that we have to protect ourselves from. So right now, we have interior environments that can allow you to be with the same light, incidence of light, through the whole time you work there, regardless of what's happening with the sun or with the day. The same with temperature, no? We have arrived to a point where your body is always in 22 centigrades temperature mode. We live in a system that has a cycle and that has a natural way of changing. Our bodies need it, and we are transforming even our bodies from generations to generations to ban that. And I think this is very dangerous. Right now I don't have an answer, but I am in the search for it. How really does architecture allows you to create this relationship.
La ferme du Rail est née en fait d'une rencontre entre les associations Bail pour tous, Atoll, Travail et Vie, qui sont très actives dans le quartier auprès de personnes en très grande difficulté, et puis d'une équipe d'architectes et de paysagistes engagés dans la réflexion autour de la transition écologique de la ville.
C'est cette articulation-là du bâti et du jardin avec le dernier grand lieu de nature à l'intérieur de Paris qui rend vraiment ce projet particulier.
La végétalisation, elle n'est pas ornementale. Pour nous, vraiment important qu'on puisse à nouveau trouver des activités économiques au sein des métropoles et non pas reléguées en périphérie.
Depuis maintenant plus de 6 mois, la ferme accueille notre AMAP. L'AMAP, c'est une rencontre entre un producteur maraîcher et des consommateurs qui, en fait, on n'est pas dans un rapport marchand. Même si on paye pour les légumes, c'est avant tout un partenariat entre un producteur et des personnes qui ont envie de consommer autrement et mieux. On paye à l'avance le producteur, ce qui veut dire que lui, il dispose des moyens de trésorerie pour développer son activité.
On a cherché à faire un bâtiment low-tech, c'est pour ça qu'on a utilisé la structure en bois et des matériaux avec le moins d'impact possible pour qu'au moment de la déconstruction, en fait, ce soit déjà déconstructible et qu'on laisse le moins de traces possible sur le site.
Pour moi, ce qui peut être répliqué, c'est ce travail de construction à plusieurs mains pour réaliser des rêves qui, sinon, sur un tableur Excel, ne trouvent jamais leur équilibre.
Okay, beauty, yes. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, as we know. And that makes it so difficult to define and difficult to talk about. I think coming to architecture, it has to feel genuine. It can be anything, but there has to be in the approach and in the making and the execution something that feels genuine, something that feels that it is what it claims to be, you know. So it creates something that you didn't expect on this particular site or in this situation. That is beauty.
If you see that someone is taking care of some tiny details, that for me is dignity. The choice was to make a brick building. It needed to, on one side, belong to an historical context. On the other side, it needed to have a presence on its own, because public buildings need to represent something.
People discover architecture in this building. They discover the proportions of the spaces, they discover how perspective works, how light works, textures, materials, relationship inside, outside. It's very exceptional.
This space is a very particular space. As an artist, you have to respond to it. So when we were talking about where to place each work, for me this space was very interesting because my work both has a relationship to the height of the space, the idea of looking up and the light coming from above, and to the garden. So the work of Pelegi Baghidi in the long corridor was specifically made for that space. So it's the huge banner that really works with the height of the space and the sound piece that was created on site in the space to really hear like how it can resonate with the acoustics.
Que mettons dans cette énergie qui devient vitale?
It's not just the white box where you hang up your work or you present your work and you have the neutral space, but no, you need the dialogue. You have to cope with it. And when you succeed there, that's strong.
There are many new European countries trying to find their identity, they struggle to come up. And instead of blocking them, we should try to engage them more and to encourage them more. In order to enrich the European identity, it's not always the good idea to promote and to strengthen the establishment and the big names and the primary projects, but to look also in places where new powers and new people, new forces are coming up. And there are plenty of those around Europe, and we should find a way to be more inclusive, actually.
Architecture as a profession tends to be quite closed in a way. It's among its own circles. So it's one of the great challenges, how to explain it to the people. Architect is a profession that most people doesn't encounter in their whole life, actually. So it remains quite distant figure for the common people.
I would say we say a bit goodbye to the standalone genius who sits on his table and draws things which contain 10,000 people. The starism is getting a bit out. It's more talking with the people, being on eye level with the users, with the clients, with the people.
Jo crec que segurament, evidentment, posem en dubte qüestions culturals molt establertes, no? La propietat privada, la individualitat, la privacitat.
Tot el que es decideix a nivell de cooperativa es fa a través d'assemblees i això és una manera de funcionar que requereix respecte, requereix empatia.
Em revelava una mica que aquesta forma de vida més comunitària hagi de ser intrínsecament juvenil, que quan tinguis 30 i pico 40 anys i vulguis formar una família t'hagis de replegar en un habitatge unifamiliar, tu, la teva parella i la teva criatura, i tenir un model molt convencional.
For me, it was a completely emotional experience.
Yeah, for me too.
It had something sort of cathedral-like and kind of like broad and expansive. For me, it was emotional.
You kind of want to go in here, if that makes sense. Like I want to go to the library, which I never want to do. Like I want to go there because it seems comfortable enough for me to study and do these things and meet up with people and we can talk and we can do all these things.
Here, architecture truly is a container for life, for people coming together and for education, for inclusion, and that is a very strong message.
Since we did our first schools, we've always believed that circulating in the fresh air is the most pleasurable thing you can do. You're not inside and you're not outside. And we really love that thing of tempered space. I mean, we teach as well, and we remember what it was like to be students, and there's a lot of stress and uncertainty. Everybody looks like they're enjoying themselves, but we know what students go through, and just that relief of being able to go out and have a coffee or see somebody going home with their shopping, but also kind of trying to imagine what your place in the world is, you know, that you're part of a bigger horizon.
The colonnade acts as a kind of a membrane, I think is how you describe it, between outside and inside, and until we saw it in action, we didn't really understand what you mean. But now, you know, when you see you've got the line of greenery that's growing on the edge, you've got the colonnade itself, and then you've got the building. It's just such a fantastic transitional thing.
When we came here, we were shocked at how small and mean the pavement was and how hostile Penryn Road is, and the fact that you as a university gave over land to allow a civic space to be made by pulling the building back, making the civic space wider and generous. I mean, that's, as architects, we have to make good interior spaces, but we also have to make good urban spaces and social spaces.
I found it impressive the way you have this kind of colonnade situation to the street, and then you have something very low-key. I mean, those tables and benches.
Yeah,
I mean, I kind of like that. It's extremely quiet. And I think there's a way in which they've dealt with the entire interior and the spaces and the design is this quietness. It becomes so natural. The way the people behave, it's like, you know, you're never in awe. They're never in awe of that space. It's just like straightforward.
If we talk about this building, we cannot only talk in the regular architectural terms. We have to talk about a well-tempered environment. The whole sound issue, it is level that is you can talk, level that you can whisper, level that you can't say anything. But that is orchestrated. All of that is orchestrated by both the architect and the client, of course, which contributes to the vocation of the building, you know, to making people feel at home in this case.
Yeah. I also think it's a very important thing in this building that a society says this is a building open for everyone. What is pretty unique in the UK, at least, it's also for anyone who wants to come and read a book or read the newspaper or have a coffee and mix. What's interesting in this project is also the mixed program with the dance facilities and the library and the cafe and the terraces and the balconies. There are spaces if you want to be in the center and dance and you want everybody to watch you. But there are also corners if you want to sort of not be seen.
Be shy and
yeah.
Yeah. And it treats and it elevates the students. It gives them so many chances also to have their self-managed quiet spaces, meeting spaces, they're all negotiating with each other.
Somebody has gone to the trouble, a university, to pay for architects and a team to make this so that I can, as a student, sit at a table in a volume that my apartment and my rental would not afford. So you've actually given them a gift to celebrate them as the minds of the future. You've given them something that you said they're worth it. It's like the hair ad, you know, because they're worth it.
Yeah.
That's what you've done.
It's so wonderful to be here today, to hear all these politicians and all the people that talk about collectivity. Look at the housing, look at the cooperative, how you challenge the norms. It's really a place of courage. I find it an incredibly moving experience to be here on behalf of all of us. We are just delighted and honoured to be given this award, and all the other people who got awards are on the hundreds of people. The standard in Europe is fantastic. So well done, Europe, for we're part of their education system, we're part of the experience of Europe. You can feel the love in this space. So thank you, everybody. It's great to be alive.